Brandon Day, or B-Day, is his nickname. Really enjoyed talking with Brandon. All-American football player, collegiate level, won 2 national championships, and then was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Incredible. Then he wrestled with that identity. He was dealing with chronic pain. He got to some low points in his life where he moved away, went to Los Angeles. Things began to spiral. He's able to pull himself out of it. Many things happened, and now he's into neurotraining. And of course, the I would argue, I'm sure he would agree, the best thing that's ever happened to him is that he had triplets. I opened the conversation with, what's the news like when you hear that you're going to have triplets? They're about 18 months old now, and how's it been? But he helps people with neurotraining and how that can help so many ailments that people have, especially with chronic pain, how it helped him and how he helps others. But a wonderful conversation with Brandon, very, very open and honest and very enlightening. Really enjoyed my conversation with Brandon. Thank you, Brandon. And thank you for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because I was working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How did I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others. To you, Brandon Day. Tell me exactly what's running through your head the moment you find out that you're having triplets.
That's a great question. And my answer is always the same. It's nothing. It goes completely blank. And you're like, Stonewall. When it went from 2 to 3, it just like everything just faded away.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by ForzaDash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading ForzaDash MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the ForzaDash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. Oh, it was first twins, and then they said triplets.
Well, yeah, in the when we were doing the ultrasound.
Oh, yeah.
We had an inkling that we were going to be having multiples because of the blood test. And so we were hoping for twins. That's what we really were hoping for.
Huh.
And so when we got to twins, we were like, yes, 2 heartbeats. And then she goes in, here's the third. Total shock.
Wow.
My mind went blank. And then a few seconds later, it was total terror. And then it was like, okay, this is our life now.
Wow.
So what's next? Yeah. And then, the greatest joy of
course,
anything ever.
Right.
Came after.
And her, what was her reaction? Of course, the bearer, the actual physical.
Yeah, she was also shocked.
Yeah.
Completely shocked at first. I think she was a little bit more scared than I was.
Wow.
For a while. It took her a little bit of time to come to grips with what her body was about to go through. But she's also a mental health professional. So she's a very self-aware person, and we had a great conversation about it over the next few days. Hard conversation, but
Yes.
yeah, we're very quickly it just turned to, gratitude. I mean, we won the lottery, really,
For you.
Yeah.
And 3 separate eggs, so there's no identicals. They're different genders.
So they're fraternal. They're all fraternal. Yes.
Fraternal, yes.
One of my daughters and my son, Ben, they look really similar. They got a lot of their mother's features. Thank goodness for them.
Yes.
But my theory is that there were 2 eggs, and that one of those eggs split. And if it splits a little bit later, coming down, then it won't. Then they won't be identical. So that's what I think happened, but I don't know.
Amazing.
I wasn't in there. I didn't see it happen.
Yeah. So I have 2, and when you go to that 2 to 3, Brandon, you got to go from man to man to zone at this point. So I mean, you went right into it. I mean,
Yep.
What was it like bringing them home and the 5 of you being alone for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, straight to a zone defense.
Yeah.
Immediately outnumbered. You know what's interesting, Joey, is that I have talked to a lot of people about this, and number one, we immediately had to make a choice to, in a sense, forget everything we thought maybe and expected about having kids and the way that we might raise them. In what I mean by that is I'm a health coach. I'm a neuro expert, brains and development, health, fitness, movement, nutrition, all the things, right? So in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to raise a superhuman. And my wife is a mental health professional. She's like, I'm going to raise the most emotionally intelligent superhuman. Like, we are going to be a super team of parents.
Yes.
And we're going to make sure everything is perfect. And then you have 3 at one time, and you immediately surrender, or you die by fire. Like, you can't control it. And that's what I hear from parents, especially parents that go from 2 to 3. So it's like when you have 1, you can control most everything, for better or worse, right? When you go to 2, you still have 2 parents for 2 kids. And even with 1 parent and 2 kids, you can still control a lot, right? But as soon as you get to 3, when you make that jump, like you said, 3 is a crowd.
Right.
Now you're playing zone. Now you got to surrender a little bit. And that's what parents from 2 to 3 say. They're like, man, it was actually harder with 2 when we got to 3 and we let go a little bit. We let go of the control and all that. Just let kids be kids. Granted, when you have kids that are a little older, sometimes they can help out.
Sure.
And I'm sure that's helpful. But even for us, with 3 that are the same age, they're all going through the stages together. They're all in diapers and running around and screaming all the time right now. It's wild.
They're 1?
What's that?
How old are they now?
They're almost 18 months, almost 1.5 right now. So they're moving. They haven't said any of their first words yet, but they sure are talkers. So, you have to surrender, and that was a huge blessing, I think, for us, because we just let it go, and we just, if everybody goes to bed alive, we win the day. That's pretty much our baseline, our default. And so that leaves so much more room to enjoy little things and just not stress about things as much. So I really think that there's been so many blessings from having 3, just the fact that we, won that jackpot, but all the little things. Another blessing in disguise, you might say, is that we don't have to listen to advice from anybody. I'm sure when you were having your first and maybe even with your second and stuff, you had all the opinions from everybody that's ever raised a kid, or maybe even not, and how they would do it. And this is how it worked in our day. And we can just shake our head and say, yeah, thank you. We appreciate that feedback, that opinion. But also triplets.
Yes.
So it's different. Everything's different. So
yeah, it's a great time. And speaking, you mentioned surrendering. So you're All-American, 2-time national champion football player, and from the outside, you've made it. But you tell me what burnout happened and your pain that you endured, and you kind of had to surrender to that too, didn't you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was a pattern in my life for sure, and that's kind of an ongoing theme in my personal experience is letting go and surrender, and not trying to control every aspect of everything that I do, which is a really interesting conversation for this podcast, right? That's about discipline, self-discipline, all those things. And this idea of surrender and almost letting go of control a little bit sometimes, right? That juxtaposition and how finding that balance for me has been a big theme. So yes, I had a lot of great success playing football and with sports in general growing up. Played football in college, won a couple national championships, was an All-American linebacker. And the wonderful thing about all of that was in the sense of like self-discipline was that a lot of that was just kind of baked into it. You don't get to make it to a national championship without some serious discipline, right, from the whole team. And so a lot of that was really baked in our coaching staff, and our team culture was huge on that. Everybody held each other accountable. We all showed up and we worked for each other, and it was easy. It was easy, actually. When that came with its own kind of challenges and struggles on the kind of the burnout front, like we were working hard all the time. It was go, go, go. And there were times personally when I felt that during my playing days. And I had an amazing support system that kind of pulled me out of the fog, so to speak, when that would happen. But when all that was over and I got into life after college and life after athletics, I didn't have that support system and not because it wasn't there, but because I didn't reach out for it. And it was very isolating, and I didn't realize at the time that I was, really self-isolating. I just needed to make a phone call here and there, but pride gets in the way and all that stuff. You want to be strong, blah, blah, blah. And so I just kept pushing. And eventually I hit that burnout, HPA axis dysfunction, like getting sick. It would happen every 6 months or so for a few years. And then I'd pull myself out of the hole, right? And this is a lot of the impetus for why I became a coach, was I kept going through these cycles: chronic pain, burnout, identity issues, and feeling like kind of lost in the world, didn't know what my purpose was anymore, and all that. All of it kind of adds together to lead you to that place of just feeling lost and dejected and disillusioned. And feeling like you don't really have anything to give. Like, mental health issues come with that as well, right? And I would find myself in that spot, and then I'd pull myself out and I'd get back on the horse and I'd start going after it again. But the foundational things weren't really changing. And so I'd get right back into that cycle. I'd push hard, push hard. My business would grow and I'd do really well. My health would be back. I'd be performing at a high level again, but still like grinding and hustling, out of balance, and then I would crash again. And it just kept happening over and over until it got to like rock bottom. And rock bottom is relative, right? We've all got our rock bottom, and it's really just, it's the bottom until you break through that and reach a new bottom. And what I mean by that is that I hit rock bottom and then I'd pull myself out, and then the bottom would get deeper and deeper until I had like a, what do alcoholics call it? Like a moment of clarity or an epiphany.
Come to Jesus, right? Epiphany.
Yeah. And it was a dark, dark moment, but that's what I needed in order to really make a fundamental change in my outlook. Like I needed to be, in a sense, I needed to be that scared in that moment. And I mean, the moment was, it's still very vivid and very clear. I woke up, I was living in Los Angeles. I was producing independent films with some buddies at the time, and, working bartending jobs and whatever else to make our way, trying to make it. And my health was just in the dumps. I was dealing with chronic pain every day, physical pain from years of sports and football. And I remember vividly waking up on an air mattress that had a hole in it, so it would deflate every night. I couldn't afford to buy a bed. I was living on an air mattress in this little apartment. And I woke up in pain. My back was killing me. My neck was like stuck in some weird position. And all I wanted was a cigarette, but I looked at my bank account and I couldn't afford a pack of cigarettes. And over the previous 3 weeks, like things have been getting worse and worse and worse for me in my mental health. I hadn't left that apartment in almost 3 weeks.
Wow.
Because I was so anxious to go outside. I couldn't even go to the grocery store because I thought I might run into someone that I knew or even someone I didn't know, and they'd want to, talk to me. And I'm in LA. I don't know anybody in LA.
Right.
Like my friends that are there with me, they live, miles down the road. I'm not going to see anybody I know. But in my mind, I'm like, what if I do? It's just this weird cognitive dissonance kind of stuff that was going on. And the point is I was so anxious about going outside. I was so broke, I couldn't afford a pack of cigarettes. I was so depressed, couldn't leave the house. I was putting everything on credit cards, right? Like getting meals delivered to my door, but I wouldn't answer the door. You just leave it on the doorstep, right? A really bad spot. That at that moment, I had the thoughts that this world would just be better without me. And fortunately for me, I come from a really strong, wonderful family. And I was surrounded by a lot of wonderful support in sports. I had great coaches. Like I had a lot of really positive role models and people around me. So when I had that thought, it was like this weird, like jolt to my brain, like a shock to my brain. Like, what are you doing? Like this voice from somewhere else saying, what is happening? Like, this is not This is not you.
Yeah.
And this is not how we're going to live our life. So that moment was that moment of clarity that, okay, I got to do something different. And that began a long journey. But from that moment, I wasn't as lost as I was. I had some kind of North Star, right? Which was really, this is not a way to live. And there's too much and too many people that are counting on you to be better and to do more for yourself and for this world, really. And I look back on it now. I haven't actually told that story in a while, but I look back on it now after having triplets and watching them, and I feel so much compassion for that person, and also so much like energy and almost like angst, like, oh, you just want to go slap him. Like, hey, what are you doing? Right? There's so much more to live for. And really, when I think back on it, and not to be disparaging about anybody that's in that state, but when you really think about it, it's a very, very selfish state. Right? In that mode, in that mindset, I'm really only consumed with myself and how terrible my life is and where I've gone wrong, and that self-loathing. It's a very selfish state when I think about it, and maybe part of that has come from having kids too. Is I am so much more living for them, now, rather than living for myself or even for my wife and our relationship. And even though, I'd put her in that boat too, but really just, the concept of living for others. Because that's really what got me out of that hole back then, was the thought that, like, it's not about me. It's not like the idea of the world being better off without me, again, is a selfish thought. And the switch in my brain was that, no, how horrible would your mother feel? What is this going to do to your dad, to your brother, these people that love you so much, right? And that's what switched it for me. So, when I find people, when I work with people that are stuck in it, the cycles of burnout, especially the mindset part, and they start getting to that stage, my first, question to them is, like, who can you do this for, this work, if not for yourself? Do you find that when it came to maybe your journey with self-discipline and staying consistent and reaching goals, or people that or have worked with, that they have sometimes an easier time, at least initially, staying consistent and going after something if they make it about something bigger than themselves or someone other than themselves?
What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypins.com/book. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's what did it for me, because I can abuse myself all I want, but I've got this family now, right? And I've got more responsibility. It's interesting to me that when people get to this low point in their life and they're considering, we've seen a lot of movie stars, musicians, etc., commit suicide, and I can't help but think, I hope they did that because, not that they were selfish, that they thought that they were going to hurt somebody else, or they were going, so that's always kind of my hope. We'll never know, of course, but you're right. It can be selfish when you're at that bottom of despair. And isn't it wonderful, by the way, Brandon, that after you have your children, or you just look at them, all those little problems just go away. Because look at them. Because, I have two daughters, and like yourself, I'm very, very grateful that they, look more like their mother. But I just look at them and think, this is what I'm leaving here. This is what I'm most proud of. If anybody asks me, what do? I always say, well, I'm a father. I mean, because I think that's most important. But it's wonderful how we can reflect upon that later. When somebody's down in that area, it can be tough to do.
It's really hard to, as they say, see the forest for the trees when you're stuck in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And did it put more pressure on you? Like you said, like you were, you're national champions, All-American. I mean, did that actually put more pressure on you, you feel, because you didn't want to see people in Los Angeles? Because I believe your college was in Montana, correct?
Yeah, it was.
A smaller college. And I think you said the football team was like 10% of the student body. Or something. It was a smaller, but you were, I don't know how, 1,000 miles, whatever difference is away, but you just didn't want to run the risk of seeing anybody there. And that added more pressure, actually. So it's the identity you struggled with, no?
For sure. That was a huge, huge issue for me. I was on the cover of Sports Illustrated when I was a junior. Yeah. And like you said, I came from a very small school in the NAIA, which, if people aren't familiar with what the NAIA is the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. Versus, it's a different organization than the NCAA. Yeah, it's I think it's as old, maybe older. I'm not actually sure. It's been around for a long time, but it's generally smaller, private, religiously affiliated colleges and universities. That's generally what most of them make up. But they're all over the country too, by the way. There's many, hundreds and hundreds of these schools. And, as far as like, people often ask, like, how does it kind of stack up competition wise? Well, generally when football teams, if they leave the NAIA and they go into the NCAA, they usually go to a Division II. So that's kind of the level,
the progression.
That's near. Anyway, small school, Helena, Montana, which is my hometown. There was around 1,100, 1,200 students in the whole student body. So yeah, we had about 120 football players who made up a sizable part of the population. So all that is to say that, we didn't have big endowments. We didn't have big media coverage. We played football because we loved the game. The team that I joined had a pretty solid record of winning. They had won 3 national championships by the time I got there. My freshman year, we won the 4th in a row. So I walked into a culture of winning, and but we didn't expect, the big accolades, the ESPN top 10s, that kind of stuff, the glitz and the glamour. So being on the cover of Sports Illustrated was quite a pleasant surprise. It was pretty wild for For myself, certainly. But for the team, for the town of Helena, Montana, and the college, and for the state of Montana, I think I'm the fourth person from Montana to ever be on the cover of Sports Illustrated,
Wow.
including maybe the third. I know Ryan Leaf, if you remember him.
Of course.
And then Evil Knievel is the other one. And there might be one more, but I can't remember who it is right now. But anyway, small group. So big spotlight on me for that. I was not in a position that I was ready for that. And I was not I didn't have the emotional intelligence or mental health to be able to really kind of handle that kind of spotlight. Sometimes I say like the brightest light reveals the darkest shadow.
Right.
So for me, that showed up as, wow, now everybody's looking at me. They're going to see that I'm not worthy of this. And that really became like a core belief. It revealed a core belief of, me not feeling worth the success that I had seen. And it was really damaging for me. And a lot of like avoidance and destructive behaviors came out of that. Like I turned to drugs and alcohol a lot to kind of mask the feelings of inadequacy and also the chronic pain that I was in all the time. And it really just sent me on a spiral, especially once I was done and the spotlight was turned off. Then I was like, well, now I got this background and people expect things of me. They expect me to maintain this level of success that I don't even feel that I was worthy of or that I even achieved. Like oftentimes I would say things like, oh yeah, I was just lucky. Right place, right time. I didn't actually do much. I often would think like there were so many other people on that team that were more deserving of being on the cover of Sports Illustrated. All of these thoughts, I would have these all the time. And I would say them when people would ask me about it. And man, all the mindset work that I've done now, I think about it and I'm just like, man, you're just digging yourself such a hole. And you're just reinforcing this belief that you have no control over anything and that you're not worthy of anything. And for years, that kept me playing small and sabotaging every chance at success that I had in my business and my relationships, to the point that I ended up on that mattress. And it's taken a long time and a lot of work to rewire those beliefs. Without that Sports Illustrated cover, that spotlight, I don't know if I ever would have done that work, though. So I'm super grateful that it happened. And I'm super grateful for all the crap that followed, in my mind. Because it allowed me, it forced me really to take this journey or, not to be hyperbolic or die. Because at a certain point, it kind of almost came to that. But, and I mean, not even just the thoughts of, it feels so weird to even say the word suicide because I feel so disconnected from that now. But even beyond those thoughts, my self-sabotaging behaviors, I mean, I got so drunk one night, I drove my car into a wall.
Purposely, you feel, or?
No, I was I was drifting around a corner in Montana, and it was super icy, and I just lost control of the car
I see.
and smashed it into a wall. And the only thing that saved me was the automatic seatbelt in my old 1990 Corolla hatchback. Without that, I would have went through the windshield and I would have hit the wall.
Wow.
I broke the windshield anyway, broke my nose, and woke up in a pool of my own blood and gravel. And you'd think that would be a wake-up call, but it wasn't. And I continued trying to kill myself in other ways for years. Somebody up there's looking out for me, and they want me around for something. So I'm still here, and I'm very grateful for all that stuff. You know,
Yeah, you brought 3 beautiful, beautiful children in the world as well, Brandon.
100%.
Are you talking when you talk about these kind of low points, is it another case of you're not, you said you weren't worthy. You said you don't think you were deserving to these things. This what am I trying to say? What is that term? It just escaped me. When you imposter syndrome. Do you believe it was imposter syndrome?
Yeah. That's in many ways, that's kind of the perfect term for it. I felt like an imposter. I felt like I did not deserve it. I felt like many people deserved it much more than me. I felt like I didn't do the work. And, thinking about coming on this show specifically, Joey, I had a little bit of that imposter syndrome. I can't lie, because the show is all about self-discipline, right?
Yeah.
And in many ways, I still have this like belief that I'm not disciplined.
Yeah, as do I.
Yeah.
I think we all do.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Right. And the reality is I've come a long way, and I am very disciplined in a lot of things. But we tend to only see, like, our brain works in this way, like specifically because it's how we survive. But it's more tuned to see threats, and it's more tuned to negative information, because negative information and threats are more important for our survival. We need to pay attention to those. Like, who cares about all the gazelles running around in the bush? But if there's a lion in there, you need to know about it, right? So our brains are just tuned that way for good reason. But even with our thoughts, we tend to let in more of the negativity than the positive.
Yeah, we do.
And so this idea of imposter syndrome, even now, if I'm not mindful and aware, I can kind of, my mind will tend to think about the negative more than the positive. And in the idea of discipline, I'll think like, man, I am just terrible right now with my nutrition. I am not disciplined. I'm not keeping up. And that's why I'm like putting on weight, and the holidays were terrible, and I didn't ate too many cookies and whatever. I haven't worked out in 2 weeks, but that just disregards the fact that, I've been out with the babies, walking every day, lifting those 25-pound dumbbells, right? Sometimes 2 or 3 at a time, and walking up and down stairs. And I do eat the same breakfast every day, and I am still maybe 70% really good with my nutrition, and I'm sleeping well, and I'm disciplined with that, and so many positive things that just get disregarded in the face of that one piece of negative information, right? So that's now, but a lot of that comes from when we talk about that, those dark times, that imposter syndrome coming from that that big spotlight of being on the cover of Sports Illustrated and not feeling worthy of that. Part of that came from the fact that I did not spend as much time in the gym working out, doing my strength training as other players did. And that's just a fact, right? I'm blanking on the author right now, but there's a great book that I read years ago I think it's called The Drama of the Gifted Child. Have you ever heard of this book?
No.
It's a great, fascinating book. The premise of the book is that sometimes being gifted is more a curse than it is a good thing. And I felt that I resonated with that a lot because I had a ton of talent. I was a very talented young man in sports and athletics. I played every sport there was, and I excelled at all of them. I picked up skills very quickly, whether it be juggling or chess or anything. I did really well in school, like top of my class usually, until high school when I really stopped caring and stopped being challenged, really. And it's because I didn't have to try very hard. I mean, I would fall asleep in class, which is another story because I had a lot of really weird sleep issues growing up, including sleep apnea and other stuff. But I would sleep in class, and then I would show up on test day, and I was good at taking tests, so I would, get B's and A's. So I really didn't have to try, and my friends would get, frustrated with me. It's like, is what it is. That talent allowed me to not work hard. I didn't have to work hard, and I excelled. And that was really hard for me later on because the people that worked hard caught up eventually, right? What's the saying? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that was certainly true for me. Like, I had to learn the hard way how to work hard, how to study, how to, how to be disciplined. So the imposter syndrome, a lot of that came from the fact that I didn't work hard and other people worked a lot harder. And so I believed that I didn't deserve it. And it just that got stuck. It got stuck deep in my heart. And it was really hard to overcome that belief and to rewire it. But again, it's a huge part of why I'm passionate about what I do, which is rewire people's brains, right? Both from the mindset part of it with core beliefs and stuff like that. And then really a lot more from the bottom up with chronic physical pain and all that. It all comes down to the brain and the nervous system, right? So without all of that, without that journey, I wouldn't be as passionate and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. So never want to come off as not grateful because I am very, very intensely grateful for everything that I've been through. And every time I look at those little triplets,
the world
I'm
changes.
reminded of that. Yeah.
But there's a very important thing that happened between this time and that time is that this documentary you saw where you realized that you had concussions and CTE, correct?
I was convinced that I had CTE at one point. Yeah.
CTE is?
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. It's a neurodegenerative disease that comes from multiple repeated subconcussive blows to the head. That can be from a sport like football, and it often is, or from working at a construction site for 20 years, or being in the military and being around concussion grenades or big booms that rattle your skull. It can even come from sports like soccer, doing headers all the time,
Right.
or it doesn't have to be from big traumatic brain injuries, although it can come from that, but more likely, more often, it's from those subconcussive blows over time. So the movie Concussion with Will Smith, I saw in 2015, I think. And at that point, I graduated from college in 2010, and I had left Los Angeles, and I was kind of on my journey back to health and trying to figure my stuff out. And I'd studied like um, health and physical education and pre-physical therapy in college, my undergrad. That's kind of, what I was thinking about going into, until I took a right angle turn into into film production. But I kind of came back to that because that's what I knew. I knew body movement. I knew how to like work out and stuff like that. So I was personal training at the time, and I was starting to go down the route of corrective exercise. I was in a master's program for kinesiology when I saw this film, and I knew that there was something wrong with my brain. And I separated that from the mental health issues, even though I figured they were probably connected, right? See, it would make sense that if you got brain problems, you might have mental health issues. I didn't know how to explain it, or I didn't know even where to look. So I just started looking into different ways. I stumbled upon the Amen Clinic, Dr. Daniel Amen, and his kind of SPECT scans, and I really wanted to do one, but they're kind of expensive for a bartender at that moment. So anyway, I saw that movie and I was like, oh, CTE. Whoa, what is this about? Started looking into it, and I became convinced that I had it. I had all the signs and symptoms of the early stages. For example, the sleep issues, the personality changes, and the impulsivity and aggression, which was never who I was before. Um, and there were a couple vivid moments when I was like, there's something seriously wrong with my brain. For example, just like spending thousands and thousands of dollars at home improvement stores like Home Depot or Ace Hardware, for projects that I thought I might be doing in the future with money I didn't have. And I remember like this vivid moment walking through the aisles and just like seeing things, just like, oh yeah, that looks cool. I could do something with that. And having this moment like, what are you doing? You don't have money for this. You have no projects you're going to make with this. You're not a woodworker. Like, you're a personal trainer. Like, what's going on? And even after having that thought, I still went through with it anyway and bought all the things that I didn't have money for. Right? Later on, I realized that it was just pure dopamine seeking. Just the purchase, like a gambler, like getting the hit of dopamine. I was so dysregulated and so out of my mind, really, in that that I couldn't control myself. I couldn't control myself at all. And so I knew that something was wrong with my brain. And when I saw that movie and then other documentaries and started really diving deep into it, I became convinced that I have CTE. I'm not convinced anymore. I have my opinions on CTE itself, and all that has changed a lot, actually. But that was an impetus for really diving deeper into neuroscience. And it actually wasn't until 2021 that I actually stumbled upon a company that was teaching applied neurology in my area, and I joined their mentorship, and that really like changed everything for me. My chronic pain was gone within a few weeks of starting the program, and the health of my brain, my energy, my metabolic function, everything changed dramatically within that first 6 months of understanding how my brain actually works, understanding the anatomy, and understanding how we use the body and the other sensory systems to affect brain function, how to assess what areas of the brain may be overactive or underactive, and bringing balance back to those areas. It made every other modality, including even the food that I eat, it made it make more sense when you can understand it from the foundation of nervous system and brain health. And it really, like, it's going over a decade now, of work in the health and fitness industry, and it significantly changed the game for me, for my own personal results and for all my clients. The CTE part, like, I don't have any of those symptoms anymore. And unfortunately, we can't really look at whether or not I had it or still have it or am at risk for it, because I think you still have to, like, take somebody's brain out and dissect it to really see. Yeah. But I'm 100% confident that I don't, and that I will not have any of those effects or have future, risks of getting that disease. And I don't think anybody else needs to either, whether you've been through all those traumas or not. I think the brain is endlessly plastic, and with the right tools,
Plastic
meaning it can change.
It can change, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, neuroplasticity, they've proven, never stops. It slows down, certainly, especially after that, critical age of 25. But it never stops, and the brain will continue to change until the day we die. The only thing that we need in order for it to change is novelty and repetition. So even somebody that's 90 years old that tries something new will have a big boost in neuroplasticity. And that can have profound effects on their health, both physical and cognitive, right? To prevent cognitive decline, to reverse things like Alzheimer's or dementia, to help with things, neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, like understanding how the brain works, understanding what neuroplasticity requires, and then tuning your environment and your training, quote unquote, for that it's actually really simple when you understand how to do it. And all it requires is a little discipline to just get it done, right?
How does one know, Brandon, when they need or if they need neurotraining?
Great question. I'm a little biased because
Of course.
I think everybody needs it and everyone can benefit from it. And the saying that, one of my mentors has is that we all have a brain, we should know how to use it. Right? It doesn't come with an owner's manual, but neurotraining is about as close as we can get. So I'll tell you who I tend to work with. But who I tend to work with, they're usually, I would love to catch them a lot earlier. Most of the people I tend to work with have been to everybody. They've seen their physical therapists. They've been going to chiropractors and massage and body work, acupuncture. They've seen their doctors. A lot of them have seen a neurologist. And they're like, there's something going on. I just don't know what it is. And I can't get help anywhere else. I would love to see people way before that, right? When they're just having a little bit of brain fog, or they're, having just a little bit of like aches and pains that just don't seem to go away. They always come back. And they've done the physical therapy and they're like, I don't know what's going on, but it's just like, it keeps bugging me. A lot of times those are, when you start to peel back the layers of any health or physical or cognitive issue, you always, always, always run into the nervous system. It always comes back to the brain, no matter what, because the brain and the nervous system is the governing system of all systems. So if you have gut issues, if you're having like physical pain, if you're having brain fog, if you're having trouble making decisions, if you're emotionally reactive sometimes, if you get motion sickness, or your balance isn't what it used to be, or the list goes on forever. If you actually approached it from, okay, well, I know the nervous system and the brain control all the systems. So what can I do to help my brain and nervous system feel more safe in the environment and send better signals to these areas of the body? If you approach it from that first step, if that's your first step instead of all the other things, you have a much, much higher likelihood that you're going to take care of that problem at the root cause. And then when you do those other modalities, because I'm not trying to disparage those things, they're all powerful and important and helpful, they're going to work much better. It's like if you have a little bit more capacity, if you have a little bit more room to work with, you got more, you're going to get better results with those things. Most people that come to me that have, selfishly, it's kind of fun when somebody's been through it all and they're like really in a tough spot, and we do one session together and we notice that they have maybe a visual or a vestibular problem with their inner ear or the integration of those systems. And I can go right at a certain brain area and give them a simple input. For instance, like maybe smelling on one nostril or the other, to just give their brain a little bit of input, and then their back pain goes away that they've had for 30 years. And like selfishly, I'm like, I love those moments because you see their eyes just blow up. Yeah. Like, what did you just do to me? Like, I selfishly love that. But I would much, much rather have them come to me, well before they've had to go through all that. And we can just do a simple little thing, and they don't have to go through the ringer in order to find out that, oh yeah, you just have this little vestibular issue. Maybe you fell off a bike when you were a kid and you rattled your inner ear a little bit. We can just give you this little head movement to activate that area, bring better balance, and now your brain doesn't need to give you pain to slow you down or to stop you from falling over. So I know for some people that probably sounds like, what are you even talking about? But the point is that we have these systems, especially above the neck, like your eyes and your inner ear, that are so impactful on brain function that when they become out of balance or dysregulated in some way, to where one side's sending certain information about where you are in space and what's going on, and the other side is saying something else. And when we have those competing signals, the brain does no longer feel safe, no longer feels predictable in the environment, and therefore will somehow try to get your attention, to get you to slow down or stop doing something that it's perceiving as a threat to your survival. If your inner ear is jacked up and you can no longer safely predict your relationship with gravity, then each step that you take is riskier. So what your brain will often do is maybe it'll give you some back pain first. That's going to slow you down. It might widen your gait, so you walk with wider steps, because that's going to make you more balanced and also slower. Maybe it'll give you shin splints if you're a runner. That'll slow you down. Maybe it'll be some knee pain, like patellofemoral pain or runner's knee, jumper's knee. These type of pains that are like come from nowhere. I didn't hurt myself, but I keep having this pain coming back.
Tennis
What's
elbow.
going on? Yeah, certainly. And there is all my biomechanical colleagues will point to specific muscle imbalances and overuse type injuries. But when we start to talk about like, well, why is the muscle imbalanced? It's like, well, because the structure is a little off. And then they'll say, well, why is the structure off? They'll say, well, because the muscle's imbalanced. Well, but why is right? So you get into this like circular discussion with them. But if we start, again, peel back the layers, we get down to the nervous system level and the brain. Why is it creating these different signals for these different muscles, right? So anyway, it's kind of a digression, but
chicken and the egg.
Yeah, it becomes that. So we got to dig deeper. And again, that's where we run into the brain. We run into the nervous system every time. So why don't we start there? Right?
Interesting.
And when you start there and you realize that the brain controls everything, then anything can affect anything. And there's a common technique that we use for pain called opposing joints. And it's based off of a term called interlimb neural coupling, but we can think of it as like spinal cord reflexes, where we have these programs from our brain that help us do things like walk without thinking about it. You don't have to think about, oh, take the next step. Okay, and then move this leg, right? You initiate the movement, like, I'm going to walk. And then your spinal cord just takes over. So because of those connections, and because it works like a big X, right? When I move my right leg, my left arm comes forward, and vice versa. Then these joints that are on opposite sides of the body actually communicate with each other through the nervous system and through how force is transmitted from the ground. So in that way, I can be a little bit more precise with this. Anything can affect anything. And let's say I have left side ankle pain. I can actually move and map the joints of my right wrist and oftentimes reduce the pain in my left ankle by 40 or 50% on average. One of those tools in neurotraining that we have that, kind of makes you look like a wizard. But when you start digging down deeper into the neuroscience of it and how these areas of the body are communicating with each other through the nervous system, it makes perfect sense. And it's not magic. It's the brain. I mean, the brain is pretty magical, but you know what I mean. But there's a lot of things like that we can dig deeper and we can affect the nervous system and get much, much better and faster results for people, whether that's pain relief or performance enhancement, right? The faster and better your eyes move, the quicker you can see things, pick up things, process them with your brain, and you'll be able to move faster, you'll be able to react faster, you'll be able to think faster and make decisions faster. All of those will help you in everything that you do, right? So the eyes are so, so powerful. And it goes well beyond just our ability to see clearly. That visual acuity is important, but it's only one of, depending on who you talk to, 30 or more different skills that the eyes need to be able to do.
Brandon, is there something that 10 years ago or so that you firmly believed in that you no longer believe in now?
Well, beyond, having chronic traumatic encephalopathy,
Right.
um, yeah, there's probably many things. Um, one that comes to mind, man, I guess the biggest one that comes to mind. I feel very blessed that I was raised by parents and had great coaches that instilled in me a strong belief in myself. I think it's really what saved my life, and it's what keeps me going after so many failures. I keep getting back up, right? In business, in life, in relationships, everything. Because I have a strong belief in myself that I can do it and I will figure it out. What's changed around that is more specific to chronic pain in the brain.
Hmm.
There was a time in my life when I really believed that I had, like, I was born with a body that just wasn't aligned quite right, or for whatever reason I had bad knees or a bad back. I'd taken too many hits to the head, and now my neck was full of arthritis, and I was going to have pain forever. And then I would just have to manage it for my entire life. And I was
Just
going
live
to
with
be
it.
stuck with chronic pain forever.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that's what I saw in the world
Right.
with family members, with, teammates, even working in physical therapy. I had a lot of the same patients that kept coming back, and we'd get them out of pain and then they'd be back.
Wow.
And it instilled in me a belief that if you got to a certain point with pain, if you got to a certain point after an injury or something, then you were stuck. You you were going to have to live with it, and the best you could do was just manage it.
Hmm.
And it's a pervasive belief in a lot of the therapy world, the traditional models of therapy. That's maybe the biggest thing that I've gotten from the world of applied neurology and really
Hmm.
digging into neuroscience is one of my mentors calls applied neurology the science of hope. And I think she's spot on with
Huh.
that,
The science of hope.
because that's what has given me and what I really very passionately try to communicate to people is that when you start to understand your brain and you start to learn how to use it and you start to become friends with your nervous system, it opens up possibilities that you never thought possible
Hmm.
before. And it really gives people hope. Um, Really quick, I mean, for myself, it was huge for changing that belief. And that shift in paradigm for me was so massive. That's why part of the reason why I'm so passionate about what I do now. And I have one quick story about a client, if you'd like to hear it.
Sure.
She was a registered nurse. And after COVID happened, a lot of people were experiencing all sorts of wild symptoms after they'd had the disease and got over it. And they started calling it like long haulers or long COVID. You probably heard
Yes.
the terms, right?
Yes.
In reality, a lot of the symptoms were neurological symptoms. that we were seeing and that my mentors had been dealing with for 20 years. And so they developed a long COVID program. I taught that program for years. And I had this registered nurse that had come to see me after she'd been to neurologists, vestibular rehab, behavioral optometry. She had kind of been through the ringer. She'd seen everybody. And she was still experiencing daily vertigo that was so bad that she would be, on the floor and the world is spinning and she would be throwing up at some point during the day unless she worked out fairly intensely in the morning. That was her only relief. Nobody could explain why. Nobody knew what was going on. They just called her long COVID and they diagnosed her with POTS, which is positional orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So at some point during the day, maybe when she would go up a flight of stairs or she would stand up from seated or lie down, she would get vertigo or her heart would just jump up to 200 beats a minute. She'd get nauseous. She'd throw up. Really debilitating, like daily experience of this. So she had been experiencing this for 2 years and she was training with one of the other trainers in this little gym that I sometimes work out of. And I had gotten in conversation with that trainer about what I do, and she just overheard it. And she's like, do you think you could help with POTS? And I said, because neuroscience is the science of hope, and because I feel like the confidence that it's given me to really help almost anybody. Like if somebody asks me that question, my answer is always, I don't know, but I'm willing to try. If I've never heard of this condition before, and I've heard of POTS, I've worked with a few people and gotten some good results. So I was confident about it, but didn't really know her background or what was going on. So that was my answer. We had one session together, and in that session, we discovered that maybe through her past and her history, some things had happened, but the disease itself had affected her brainstem, and her vestibular system was a little bit off. And the way that her brain was dealing with that, because it felt so threatened, and the term is dysautonomia. So her autonomic nervous system, her brainstem that controls her heart rate, that controls blood pressure, your vagus nerve lives in there, right? So nausea, gut motility, all that gut function, all that stuff lives there. It was so out of balance, and her vestibular system, which also informs that area, was so out of balance that anytime she moved from a different position, orthostatically, her blood pressure would drop or it would spike, her heart rate would go out of whack, and it would become so dysregulated that her brain would just go, stop what you're doing right now. I'm going to make you sick, so you lie down.
Wow.
Within that hour session, we discovered that she definitely had this brainstem issue, but the fix for her, because we discovered a vestibular problem, we did, long story short, we did one drill called an infinity walk where you just stare at a target and then you walk in a figure 8 pattern without letting your eyes leave the target. It's a common drill that they've been using in schools for a long time to help kids that have learning difficulties focus better. In the applied neurology realm, what it does is it realigns and recalibrates the 3 main sensory systems that help you know where you're at in the world: your eyes, your inner ear, and your body, or your proprioceptive system. When we got those 3 things back recalibrated, after walking that figure 8 with her eyes locked on that target, 3 or 4 laps, the change in her facial features, the change in her reassessment, the change in her gait or how she walks was significant. She felt it instantly. It was kind of one of those light bulb moments where she was like, wow, I feel so different right now. I feel amazing. That's great. So we're like, okay, cool. continue to do this, and we'll see what happens. 3 weeks later, I hadn't heard from her. And usually I follow up with people every week. We come back, we do more training. But she wasn't ghosting me, but she was kind of like, nah, I'm feeling good. Like, I haven't had any symptoms. And then 3 weeks later, I'm like, what's going on? You still doing okay? She's like, she sent me this text that said, literally, this has been life-changing. I haven't had one symptom
Wow.
in 3 weeks, and it's been over 2 years that I've been dealing with this daily. I don't know what you did to me, but I've been doing it every day, and like, my life has completely changed. For someone that had been to so many different medical professionals that all had different answers for her, but none of them were dealing with the actual root cause of what was going on in her brain. They simply just didn't know. And they were all working on the symptoms.
The symptoms, yeah.
And trying to help her with the symptoms without understanding what the system was underneath that was governing all of those, and that was actually producing the outputs or the symptoms that she was experiencing. And like, I'm no wizard. Like, I don't, all we do is follow a simple process of trying to assess what's going on in a person's brain or in their body. And then we kind of work as neurotrainers, as a options facilitator, to give the brain and the nervous system an option and then reassess whether or not it was a positive adaptation. It's really that simple. And then it's up to the client to go do that homework and to continue and to build that relationship with their brain and start to open that dialogue with their own nervous system. So it doesn't always work as miraculously as it does like that, but sometimes it does.
Yeah,
and those
it's
are fun.
Wonderful. Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it.
Yeah.
It must make you feel really, really rewarding. So I started my my business back in the 90s, Brandon, and I was working way too hard, not paying attention to myself. I still consider myself an athlete, played a lot of sports, certainly. But I started putting that in the back seat and eating poorly, working long hours. So next thing I know, I'm at the doctor. She tells me I'm at 340 pounds. And she says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. We talked about it earlier. And, I'm driving home, punching the steering wheel, right? I can abuse myself all I want, but it's much bigger than me now. I've got this family. So I lost about 130 pounds in about 6-7 months, kept it off. You can't look at these things as
Incredible.
finishing lines. And so when I tell people this story, what's your secret? What's your secret? They always say, and I, like you said before, discipline, right? I have focus, routine, all under what I call the discipline spectrum. So we've mentioned it before, but how does discipline, as an athlete, as a father, how does it play a role in your life now?
It plays a huge role, certainly. A couple of sayings that come to mind are discipline equals freedom.
Sure.
Right. And also discipline beats motivation every time. Because motivation wanes. Willpower is a finite resource. But when you instill discipline and you maintain consistency, there really is no other option than to succeed. Right? The only way to fail is to quit. And discipline to me is doing the little things that may not be easy, but that keep you moving in the direction that you want to go. A little bit every day. Like that idea of like 1% better. If you instill the right habits and you're disciplined about them, then yeah, the outcome is it's undeniable. It's going to happen eventually. It's hard to say exactly how long, depending on the goal and things that will happen along the way. But discipline really is, it's the key. It's the key to success. A perfect example, I think, in my life right now is our kids. And I mean, my wife is incredible, and she is one of the most disciplined people I know since I met her. And people are often asking us, how we're doing so well with triplets in this stage, because it's very difficult, right? They're wild. They're wild, and they're running around everywhere, and they're screaming and yelling, and it takes a lot. But the reason that we are thriving right now, and the reason I think that we are thriving, and why some parents out there are really struggling, even with one kid. And I'm not trying to say that having just one kid is easy.
Of course.
I don't think anybody gets off real easy when you're dealing with babies. They can be
Parents.
They're tough. Yeah, it's tough. And we're all learning as we go. But I think some parents make it harder on themselves when they are not disciplined. And of course, I'm not talking about disciplining your children, like disciplining an infant or a toddler is, that's another discussion.
Challenge.
But being disciplined. And the key kind of to our success right now is being ruthlessly consistent with things like sleep, with timing of things like sleep, naps, and not so much the food anymore, because they just kind of eat all day long. But from day one, now I will absolutely give it up to the neonatal intensive care unit, the NICU. They were the best babysitters on earth, right?
Wow.
And they had our kids on a schedule from day one. And the biggest key to our success when we brought them home was to keep them on a very strict schedule and be very disciplined ourselves about not varying from that. Because the predictability of that for our kids is why they're doing so well. I 100% believe that.
Wow.
And I 100% believe that for adults, for everyone. Your brain is a predictability machine. And when you give it predictability, it feels safe. In so many ways, I use this phrasing a lot, like your baby brain. This area of your brain back here and lower, your survival brain, your emotional brain. You got to treat your brain like a toddler, like a baby. It needs to feel safe. And when it feels safe, you get performance. You get peak performance. You get flow states. You get enjoyment. You get clear thinking. If it does not feel safe, for whatever reason, whatever threat that it's perceiving, and it doesn't feel predictable, then you get more pain. You get brain fog. You get mental health issues. So discipline in that way is a performance enhancing drug. It is what gives our brain predictability. And at a very fundamental level, your brain loves that. So I'm always trying to find ways to give that to my brain. Little routines, little triggers, and being disciplined to do those for long enough. Here's the thing about discipline too, is your brain is a novelty machine too. It loves novelty. So that's where the ADHD brain comes in, and we get the squirrel and get distracted, and where discipline can fall apart. But if you can recognize that and you can push through that phase, that's really where the discipline comes in. If you can push through that phase when it starts to get boring and make it an unconscious habit to where it's just a thing that you do. It's just who you are, right? Then it becomes easy. And you don't even need discipline anymore because it's just who you are. It's just what you do.
Automatic, yeah.
Yep. And becomes a part of your identity. Like for you, you're not that guy anymore. Now you're the guy who eats right, who exercises. That's just who you are. Like, how much discipline does it actually require now? Sure, there's going to be times. Holidays, you got that huckleberry cheesecake staring you in the face. It happens. But you got the willpower reserves, right, to deal with that in the moment. So it really requires less and less discipline over time, which is awesome. But
it kind of falls into that routine at that point. So
yeah.
So it just happens. Yeah. Brandon, it's the trait of a remarkable person to not only make these changes for themselves and help themselves, but to turn around and do it for others as well. I help myself, but now the way I help myself, I know I can help others. And I applaud you for that. And it's a great way to give back, and it seems so rewarding. It's incredible. Anybody that wants to get in touch with you, how can they? What's the best way?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. My website is always a good spot. It's called evolvedathlete.coach. So you can go there. You can check out a little bit more about what I do, about some of the programs that I offer. You can follow me on Instagram at I am Brandon Day. And you can also check out my free community on School. And that's just school.com/evolved.
SKOOL.
Yep, that's right. Love that platform. It's a lot of fun over there. So yeah, those are my spots. That's where I hang out most of the time. Or if you're in Phoenix, come on down to the gym. We'll hang out.
That's my next point. Fun. If I'm ever in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, we'll get a cup of tea. Brandon, thank you so much for your time today. Great talking with you, man.
Thank you, Joey. Appreciate it. Had a lot of fun.
You be well.
You too.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources, and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.